Breaking tonight with less than 48 hours to go before the next big Republican presidential debate showdown, the candidates are warning expect a brawl, vowing to take on the frontrunner head on. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. As the big debate nears, new polling among registered Republican voters shows two candidates now hold more than 50% of support. Donald Trump at 33%, followed by Dr. Ben Carson at 20%. No one else even hits the double digits, with Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio rounding out the top five, all below 10%. All five of them will be among the 11 people on the primetime debate stage Wednesday night, and many are starting to acknowledge that they must do something to stand out, and they hope to take support away from the frontrunners. Governor Scott Walker saying, quote, "I think we're going to step it up and be more aggressive this time." Senator Rand Paul telling the AP, "I'm not going to sit quietly by and let the disaster that is Donald Trump become the nominee." And it goes on.
I'll campaign hard. If someone comes at me, bam, I'll come back at him.
But by the way, stay tuned on September 16th.
Yeah.
We may be changing tactics. Uh-oh, he's going to go nuclear now.
If it's important to draw a contrast between myself and Donald Trump, I will. Between myself and Jeb Bush or Ben Carson or anyone else, I will.
Tonight, we have three of the governors who will be on that debate stage: Scott Walker, Chris Christie, and Mike Huckabee. But we begin with Mark Thiessen, a Fox News contributor and former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush, along with Howard Kurtz, host of Fox News' Media Buzz. All right, so the latest polling shows Trump higher than ever, Ben Carson surging as well. And the stakes for this debate, Mark, are now very high as the candidates who remain below those two seem to see this as a big opportunity.
It's a big opportunity and a big challenge for them. I mean, as you pointed out, Ben Carson and Donald Trump together have 53% of the vote. Jeb Bush in this ABC News poll has dropped down to 8%. First time he's been below 10% in any of those polls. And all the candidates combined, if you look at all those pictures that you had up on the screen before of everybody but Ben Carson and Donald Trump, they're all at 41% together. So this is a field where all the outsiders are doing well, and the politicians are in single digits.
Okay, but there is risk to these candidates, Mark, in attacking Donald Trump, because he'll say just about anything in response.
He will, absolutely, and we can see that just in the ugly attack he just had on Carly Fiorina, who has handled that with incredible class. I think she's poised to have a real breakout performance, and she's a threat to Donald Trump because she's an outsider like Donald Trump and Ben Carson is. She's very affable. She did very well in the Fox News in the undercard debate, and she actually took on Donald Trump in that debate, but he wasn't on the stage to respond. This time he's going to be on the stage to respond, and we could see a back and forth between them. And she's smart. He's going to have a hard time handling her. So we'll see how she does. She
Ben Carson is a surgeon, but she cuts with a surgeon's precision. And it'll be interesting to see the two of them on the stage together. Howie, we just saw a remarkable event with Donald Trump speaking to 20,000 people in Dallas, Texas. Governor Scott Walker is coming up in a minute. He spoke tonight to a crowd of 110 people. All right, and that underscores some of the problems that some of these other guys are facing in this race. However, you look at the screen, Fox News had it, CNN had it, Fox Business had it. MSNBC had it. Wall to wall. We broke away for O'Reilly, but wall to wall coverage. It's a huge advantage for him.
And I can't defend it journalistically. Even Trump is now joking about how every speech he gives is carried live. And the fact is that the other candidates in this environment, where it's all Trump all the time, not just on TV, but on newspapers, websites, Twitter, you name it, many of them are in the position of almost having to attack Trump just to get a little ink or airtime. But there's a danger here. If creating a moment, as we all talk about in the pregame chatter, if it feels forced or artificial or staged, there can be a backlash. You can't just go out there and insult Donald Trump. You have to wait for a natural moment when you can jab or counter something that he says.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, when you look at the polls, like the CNN poll that just came out, you can see such a difference between how a core of the GOP base feels about Donald Trump and the general electorate. He is surging. I mean, the core of the GOP base is loving the man. And when you take it to the general election, it's a very different story.
It is a very different story. So his numbers on honest and trustworthy are worse than Hillary Clinton's. She is seen as more honest and trustworthy than Donald Trump. So with the general electorate, that's true. But interesting thing in that ABC News poll also found that he's effectively tied with Hillary Clinton in a one-on-one matchup. She has 46%, he has 43%. That's so, you know, the issue is usually in an election when a candidate like this is surging, when Howard Dean was surging back in 2004, eventually voters look and say, is this person electable? Can we win with this candidate? And if Donald Trump is pulling even with Hillary Clinton, then the electability factor might not be a negative against him.
We're going to get to this in our next segment with Governor Walker, Howie, but on the subject of electability, and you know, this is what we were asking the candidates about in the first round of questionings at the last GOP debate. The reason yours truly asked Donald Trump about his controversial comments on women was because, as I pointed out in the question, he is likely to face a female nominee across the aisle. And Hillary Clinton is already saying that she would love to debate Donald Trump. And so at what point do you think, if at all, that weighs in with the Republican primary voters? Because so far, they seem to like that rhetoric, and it's not a deal breaker for them.
Well, it's one of the reasons everybody's going to be interested to see how Carly Fiorina does and how Trump handles jabs coming from a woman. But the thing is, as Trump has surged in the polls, a lot of the fall matchups, the hypothetical matchups against Hillary, now has him within a few points. So he has, in a way, a stronger argument if he holds up in this grueling process than others might. But, you know, the focus on the CNN debate is going to be Trump versus whoever, as long as that whoever is named Carly, Ben, or Jeb. The press, for the moment, isn't that much interested in the other candidates unless they take such a swing at Trump that there's actual fisticuffs, maybe a little blood. Well,
what do you agree with that, Mark? I mean, because these other candidates seem to be promising to get more airtime, and you heard what Rand Paul said in particular.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with Howie because, I mean, if you look at the guy who surged out of the last debate, it was Ben Carson, who didn't take a jab at anybody. He was just Ben Carson. And he came out and he's running a positive, optimistic, hopeful campaign. He took a swipe at Donald Trump the other day, and then he probably went home and prayed about it and decided it was a mistake and apologized. And he's at 20%. He's at 20%. I think what these candidates need to do, they're going to look desperate. Rand Paul looks desperate when he attacks Donald Trump. Bobby Jindal looks desperate when he attacks Donald Trump. These candidates have to be themselves. They have to make the case. You know, Jeb Bush has to say, here's my case for why I should be president. Here's how I'm going to shake up Washington. Scott Walker, John Kasich, they have to be themselves and present an alternative vision that is appealing the way Ben Carson did, or else they're going to look desperate.
It's going to be interesting to watch Trump and Carson in particular. Trump continued to attack Carson over the weekend, suggesting that he's worse than Jeb, like Ambien for insomnia. And then Carson came out on ABC and said, you don't have to be loud to be energetic.
He's an okay doctor.
We shall see. Great. He's an okay doctor. Great to see you both.
Thanks, Megyn.
Well, when Donald Trump last week attacked Carly Fiorina for her looks, Governor Scott Walker came to her defense, and quickly. And he's with us tonight on the new twist in that fight. Plus, Governor Chris Christie is just ahead to talk about the Wednesday showdown and a new show of support for him from a well-known beauty queen. And then the court clerk who was locked up for refusing same-sex marriage licenses goes back to work today. We will ask Governor Mike Huckabee what he thinks about this and why he thinks this was a case of criminalizing Christianity, before Judge Andrew Napolitano explains why he thinks the governor may be dead wrong.
So I'm here before you this morning with a seemingly impossible choice: my conscience or my ability to serve the people that I love. Obey God or a directive that forces me to disobey God.